Hi, I'm Lisa K. Donner, along with Andrew Moran, Sarah Cowgill, Jeff Charles, and Graham Noble. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. On today's episode, Desperate Times, a former president on a perp walk? We'll discuss the possibilities in Trump, the latest melee. Following that weirdness, we'll talk about the hiding places for cash in the shaky, breaky bank boogie. One cable news network is ready for its final breath, and CNN is toast, and we'll pivot to another test of wits in Just for Fun We Play Trivia. All this and more coming up in this edition of The Conservative Five. The world watches and waits to see if former President Donald Trump will be arrested, cuffed, and processed. All this ruckus over a reported hush payment to adult movie star Stormy Daniels. The Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, let that plan slip last week, perhaps on purpose, who knows. But then there seemed to be a halt in the hostile action. So the question is, what gives? Graham, you have penned an excellent analysis of the whys and why nots of arresting Trump. So will they or won't they? And don't tell me only his hairdresser knows for sure.
Well, Lisa, I wouldn't like to get into the prediction business over this because nobody seems to know. We are already beyond the point of when everyone initially thought an indictment was going to come down, and now it's going to be at least a couple more days, let's say, before anything is going to happen. The thing about this is Trump is going to survive either way. I mean, it's going to be a hard push for the DA to get a felony charge, to wring a felony charge, if you like, out of this grand jury, because what Trump is being accused of doing, the violation that we're discussing, is actually a misdemeanor under New York law. Under certain circumstances, this particular misdemeanor can be kind of bumped up to a felony, but that's a hard slog. So, either way, you can say Trump's going to survive this. I think we can all be very certain that he is not going to prison, much to the chagrin of people on the left who'd love to see him in an orange jumpsuit. And of course, he's going to be able to use this throughout the 2024 campaign. Whether he's indicted or not, he's going to use this as an example of how, once again, they went after him for whatever they could. Does it, it sets a precedent, a worrying precedent, if you like, for future presidents, in that, if he was indicted, it'll be the first time a former president has ever been criminally charged. And so, we're into a whole new territory then.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Jeff, do you think the politics of this are going to cause Mr. Bragg to have a little pause here?
No, Lisa. Here's my theory, and I can't prove this, but I think Alvin Bragg wears a MAGA hat when nobody's looking. I think he's a secret Trump supporter because this is the biggest favor that Democrats could have done for former President Donald J. Trump. Everybody knows that this is politically motivated, including the people who support it, including Democrats. So Trump is playing this masterfully, just like he always does. Love him or hate him, he knows how to work these situations in his favor. I just read a headline from New York Post saying that if he is indicted and has to appear before a court, he wants to be handcuffed. Can you imagine how that will be used to rile up his base? When he first announced, it was kind of a little bit lackluster, and now he's kind of getting into a stride. This is exactly what his campaign needs. This is the jolt that will catapult him even further beyond the field for the Republican nomination. So I think that's the only reason why maybe they might back off. I know the grand jury didn't convene yesterday or earlier this week, and I know that they were supposed to issue an indictment, but they haven't yet. They're holding off on it. But I don't know if they're trying to weigh the political fallout from this over whether they think they can actually get him or not. So I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up backing off. If they were smart, they probably would.
Hey, Jeff, he should be arrested like Greta Thunberg. Should have the cops carry him out from his Manhattan home and carry him out there and pretend he's getting arrested.
That would be amazing for him.
So, Sarah, I love to test, the rank and file folks out there and see what they have to say. But it was interesting because My hairstylist said, could you please explain to me why they're going to arrest Donald Trump in like layman's terms? Because I don't understand this. I mean, she just came out with that today. So I think this has caught the attention of the rank and file American. But what does that mean exactly?
Well, it means that he's getting attention, which the Democrats never really want him to have. And he's getting the kind of attention that riles up the base, that has people chatting in the hair salons, in the pubs, in the cafes, everywhere, that there's a conversation going on. Right now, it's about Trump. And if the Democrats were smart, which I'm not accusing them of being the most stupid political party in the world, but if they were smart, I think what they should do is them and their, PR arm, the media, would just stop covering him and just stay silent. If they stayed silent, nobody would know this, the attention wouldn't be gotten, and they could just go on their merry little way. Problem is, it got leaked to Trump, Sarah. And Trump made it a big deal.
They can't do that. It's like an elixir. They can't stop themselves. Don't you agree?
Oh, I know. But that's the worst strategy that they can have, is to continue to hammer this man that just makes people want to vote for him. And if the idea is to keep your old guard, and that's an emphasis on the old guard in office, then by goodness, you don't want to be, alerting people that Trump is a better guy, because, he's the martyr of the Republican Party right now.
Right. Andrew, do you agree with the conventional wisdom here that, arresting Donald Trump is going to be a very good political move for the Republicans and not so hot for the Democrats?
I think more of it serves as a distraction for the Republican Party. I know I'm in the minority of that, but this is why, one of the reasons why Ron DeSantis would be a superior candidate to Donald Trump. I mean, look at some.
Wait a minute, really?
Wrong.
Well, if you look at some of the polls. So you look at some of the polls, even during the midterm elections, most people say that the country's on the wrong track. Well, Joe Biden's a weak president. He has a 40% approval rating. Congress has a 21% approval rating. Instead of focusing on the optics of being arrested in front of police and having all the cameras and your great photo ops, Ron DeSantis is talking policy. He acted. He's not on social media whining and moaning and calling people names and all that, and having having money given to a porn star. He doesn't have any of that. So Donald Trump, sure, he may be leading the polls, but will it translate to a general election victory? I don't know. But I mean, I don't know how you could convince an independent voter who doesn't follow the ins and outs of this like we do to say, oh, this guy got arrested, oh, I'm going to vote for him. That's why Ron DeSantis, I mean, that speech he gave the other day in Florida, where he had that little jive to Donald Trump, but that also criticized Alvin Bragg, was pure political brilliance. And that's what Donald Trump should be doing, but he's not.
Okay, Andrew, here's the thing. You need to come down here to the lower 48, have a little visit. And when you have a little visit, you'll understand that characters like Donald Trump charm the heck out of every red-blooded American. They like that. They like the rough and tumble. We're not, gentrified. We like the rough and tumble. We like a good fight. We're scrappers. We take on everybody. So in order to be this perfect policy thing, well, nobody's listening to perfect policy, man. They're listening.
Yeah, see, if I may just say one thing quickly, See, I'm an old school guy. I remember when Calvin Coolidge would just go on the radio and say, "Hey, I did this and this. Vote for me." That's the type of
you weren't even born yet.
You weren't born yet, and
I don't remember Calvin Coolidge.
You live on social media, Andrew. You live on social media, and you know better. You know better.
Policy. Sarah is absolutely right. Americans do not vote on policy. Well, as is usual with everything Trump, and now here we are screaming at each other. It's high drama and high stakes. We'll keep you posted on LibertyNation.com. Thanks so much, and thanks, panel. Earlier this month, a $42 billion bank run on Silicon Valley Bank led to its demise. Even including the Great Depression, this is the biggest single bank run in U.S. history. And the peeps out there, well, they're just getting a bit jittery. Banks are being gobbled up or rescued as another economic crisis looms. Andrew, you wrote on LibertyNation.com this week, quote, "If JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, or Bank of America failed tomorrow, the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve would intervene," end quote. What does that say for state and local institutions?
Well, I guess it depends on who you talk to. So if you watch that March 22nd post FOMC meeting with Jerome Powell, he told the American people that everyone should be rest assured that the deposits are safe. But then if you watch, which happened at the same time, Janet Yellen's hearing in front of the Senate Appropriations Committee, she said that she would not endorse a blanket insurance, a deposit insurance. So it really depends who you talk to. But politically, at this point, if a bank in the middle of Arkansas were to fail, the administration would have to bail it out, because the critics could say, oh, well, why would you bail out Silicon Valley? Oh, that's right, because they were wealthy depositors. They were companies who had links to the Chinese Communist Party. These were the tech bros of Silicon Valley that leaned left. So the optics of it all, the administration would have to bail them out regardless. But economically or financially, it would be impossible, because the argument right now in Washington is if you should have unlimited deposit insurance. But if you look at some of the numbers, the base deposit total number is $18 trillion. The FDIC's reserves is $150 billion, conservatively estimating. So overall, I mean, the bank system is in shambles right now.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me whether it was Yellen or someone else who said everyone should assume that their deposits are okay. Boy, that doesn't sound really, comforting to me. Should assume. Jeff, are you okay with that?
No, I'm not. And I'm going to borrow or steal a phrase from a brilliant economic mind named Liberty Nation's Andrew Moran and say this is what happens. SVB and these other banks are what happen when you subsidize incompetence. That's what's happening right now. I was on another podcast talking about this, and the idea that they're going to increase, or that they want to increase the amount that's going to be insured, it just gets the government even more involved. Why should these banks focus on running their operations in the best way possible? Why should they care about the consumers when they know they're going to get bailed out no matter what? So this is a repeating cycle. It's going to keep happening and happening and happening as long as the government continues to be involved.
Sarah.
Thanks, Andrew.
Oh,
Sarah, take it away. Go ahead.
okay. So I have a very wealthy family member, and so I was on the phone. I was on the phone going, okay, I have a friend who wants to invest $700 a month. He wants to take it out of his 401k and invest it in something that's going to perform better. So I call my sister. Okay, so that cat's out of the bag, and she gets on the phone with somebody she knows, financial planner, and I get a text back. He says, take the cash and stick it under your mattress and wait it out. So wow. I'm not sure anything's going to perform, and I'm not a big fan of keeping all my money in a bank. So I can't tell you, but people are spooked here that their little banks are going to go away, and that's we've got smaller. We don't have Wells Fargo branches or, the biggies. We don't have Bank of America anywhere near where I live. We have tiny little banks. They're community owned or they're regional banks, but they're not the big ones. So, people are a little more spooked in this neck of the woods.
If I might add something, if I might just add something to what Sarah said, there was a great exchange between Senator James Langford of Oklahoma and Janet Yellen during a recent Senate hearing, and he asked that. He said that, could you guarantee that the small community banks in my state would be protected if they failed? And she said, well, sorry, I can't do her accent right now. I'm tired. But she said, no, well, only if there's systemic risks to the financial system. So thereby, in other words, no, you're on your own, but we're gonna shield our big banks and our well-connected.
Yeah, the little guys are gonna go. They're gonna be the minnows used as bait or whatever you want to call it. But the little guys are not going to stand a chance when it comes down to it, if this really goes really south.
South, yeah. What do you think heading down there in NOLA, Graham?
Money is not safe, whatever you do with it, because the whole thing about, take all your money out of the bank and put it under your mattress. Well, that's all well and good, but then inflation eats away at that anyway. So how much your money is worth is going down, whether it's in the bank or not, you could say. And it was, of course, ultimately none of this really matters, because once they push us all into the central bank digital currencies, we won't actually have any money at all. It'll all be theoretical, ones and zeros out there in the ether.
Well, Andrew, they just raised the interest rate 25 basis points yesterday. What does that do to this whole banking melee?
Well, Jerome Powell was actually asked that during the press conference, and he said that even if the Fed weren't to raise interest rates, credit conditions will be a lot tighter. And when credit conditions are tighter, and when an economy is 2/3 consumption relying on credit and borrowing, then that's going to slow down economic growth. You saw a lot of economists, whether even Goldman Sachs, which is pretty always bullish, they raised their recession odds after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So this whole tightening, there was Elon Musk. He said that the Federal Reserve should have cut interest rates by 50 basis points. The futures market is actually, despite what Jerome Powell said, is actually betting that the Fed's going to cut interest rates over the next 12 months by 1%. So everyone's just not believing the Federal Reserve anymore, and they've completely dropped the ball on absolutely everything at this point. I like Jerome Powell. He's a nice guy, but he has to be one of the worst Fed chairs that in my lifetime, because nothing he's been doing has been right up to this point.
Well, this is a sticky one to fix, but our econ guru, Andrew Moran, who you just heard from, will have your back and keep you informed on the pages of LibertyNation.com. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, panel. CNN has reported its lowest ratings in a decade. Basically, the left-wing outlet has lost 60-some% of its viewers when compared to this time last year. Did they lose their radical base after attempting to turn to the center once Discovery bought them, or are there just more critical thinking viewers tired of the rhetoric? Seems like this one is right up your alley, Mr. Charles.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors in play here, Lisa. And I will say this. I wouldn't count CNN out just yet. I don't think it's time for the funeral dirge just yet. I think a lot of this is normal because, one, when they went to becoming a fully anti-Trump propaganda outlet, they lost some people because not everybody wants to hear that. But there are people who do. They want their news biased. They want to know where the bias is, and they want news that agrees with them. But now that they have this new CEO, Chris Licht, who's been in charge for still less than a year, he's created a lot of upheaval. He's reworking the way things are going. He wants it to be more straight news reporting, which again, what might make you lose that audience that still wants the propaganda. So on top of that, they're doing a lot of experimenting with their prime time and morning slots. They're switching things around. They don't really even have a set host for their 9 o'clock slot yet. So I think a lot of these changes are going to result in decreased viewership. But what I do want to look at is the bigger picture here. I think that if we look at the fate of CNN over the next few years, we're going to see what American news consumers want. Do they want more biased news for the right or the left, or do they want more straight reporting like what they're moving towards right now? So I think it's still too early to tell. I think part of this is it just natural growing pains because of changing things around. But I think that the verdict it hasn't come in yet.
I couldn't disagree with you more. Let me just say one thing. They're just messing with the fringes. They're not making real changes. Moving Don Lemon from primetime to morning drive, is that really going to tune in the regular Joe Blow at Six Pack who, wants to hear the news instead of constant commentary? I don't think so.
When your primetime audience
Don Lemon.
400,000. When your primetime audience is 400,000 viewers, you got a serious problem. And that's what they're experiencing. Their primetime is just sucking. Not to quote the former president, but
it's nasty.
Bad. Bad.
I think Chris Licht would have been just better off if you just cleaned house entirely as opposed to just, picking and choosing who's staying and who's going. You're keeping a guy like Jim Acosta around or Don Lemon, that's not really good for the CNN brand. If Chris Licht said at the beginning, look, we're going to completely revamp our operations, we're going to return to the days of Bernard Shaw, then perhaps that would have reinstated their credibility. But Trump killed that brand. He brought out the worst in these journalists at CNN. So overall, it's going to be hard to go back to those days and reinvigorate the CNN brand.
Well, nobody, if I was CNN and I had just been the new CEO, I would be saying, how do I get rid of these people without paying out their contract and punish them at the same time? That's what I would have done. And I would have stuck them at the most ungodly hours of the day where nobody watches them. until their contract ran
Yeah.
out, and then not renew it. I mean, that would be the smart move. If I don't think you just want to pay out and then pay double for your new talent. And that's just me.
Yeah, Graham, it sounds like the guy's trying to play Solomon here, but cutting the baby in half doesn't work. I think they needed to lop off the head of Alfredo Garcia here. I just think that it was one of those, just what they need to clean house. I mean, they need to clean house and start over.
Yes, I agree. That's what CNN should have done. I agree with you on that. I agree with Andrew that you can't you can't do this in some kind of like cautious way. They had to change things altogether. See, CNN has actually completely lost its way. I think the whole problem that cable news has in general, and this is all of them, including Fox, is that this kind of blending of news and opinion is I think it's frustrating a lot of the average Americans, because the average Americans, I think, they want one or the other. There are some people out there who want that advocacy journalism, that activist journalism, but a partisan kind of style that's either right or left, or they want absolutely just straight news. Tell me what the bleep is going on, and I don't want to hear your opinion. And I think this blending of it is really is a losing model in the end. And what I think CNN should have done, if they really wanted to, if the network really wanted to save itself, was to just go back to how it once was, how I've remembered it when I used to watch CNN all the time. And that is go back to that, just basically straight news. This is what is happening.
Well, but we have to remember at the time, CNN was a pioneer and it didn't have a lot of competition at the time. So there weren't so many, big giant cable news 24 outlets that were giving them competition. They were pioneers and they did lose their way. And yeah. I think it's really interesting to see what's happened to them.
But now it's almost like a soap opera most of the time, I mean, they should call it. I mean, I think whatever Don Lemon's show is doing, I don't watch the guy, but whatever his show is, it should be called, maybe Days of My Lives or something.
Well, and also to piggyback off of what Graham was saying,
he is a one-man soap opera, that guy.
Yeah, and I think the issue is trying to blend commentary and opinion with straight news. There is a market for both. And what I think is going to happen, if I'm going to be the prophet Jeff Isaiah right now, I think what's going to happen in the future in the nation's media landscape is you're going to have outlets that just do straight reporting. And then you're going to have everything else. You're going to have left-wing, right-wing media that will be honest about their bias, and people can pick and choose what they want. But I think Graham is right. It's really hard to blend those two in a way that doesn't turn people off.
Well, it cultivates distrust. It cultivates distrust. Once you are doing that blend, people are watching shows, whether they're watching Fox, CNN, MSNBC, whichever one it is, they're watching their shows and they're thinking to themselves, okay, what I'm hearing now, what this anchor, what this host is telling me, is this actual news, or is this their opinion? They can't tell
when that. You've got, I don't care. I mean, you can have a very talented journalist, and these people all work for giant corporations, so they don't have autonomy. And if they want them to spin a narrative, it's coming down from who's paying the bills. It's not, a lot of them are going for this woke culture, and those people glom onto it, and they want their message and what they feel about what's going on to be broadcast over their advertising dollars. And that's what they do. They cater to corporate. This isn't real journalism. This is corporate journalism.
But if you're honest and upfront and you say, we're a conservative news outlet, then you're immediately labeled far right wing, fringe, conspiracy theorist, et cetera, et cetera. It's like you can't be just have a political point of view and be honest and truthful in your news coverage. I mean, what is wrong with that?
Well, I think, if I may say about Jeff, I think some people are being too optimistic about the media landscape. I think a great summary of how the media landscape operates was during that recent press briefing where Simon Ortega of Today Africa News, and he said, call upon me. You've ignored me for 8 months, and then all the journalists just gave him a hard time. And then after the whole spectacle was finished, they apologized, Karine Jean-Pierre, and said, "Oh, we're so sorry. We really respect the administration." So that's the mindset of journalists. So I don't think there is either an appetite or even a base that can just be straight objective, report the news. You have, and the ratings show this. If you're left to right, you get ratings. MSNBC or Fox News are the top news networks for a reason, because they confirm everyone's biases, and that is it.
Okay, but let me just say something. I've been in journalism for a long time. I'm considerably older than the rest of you. And back in the day, AP, the Associated Press, was straight down the middle. I mean, they weren't playing left or right. Now you read the Associated Press, and you might as well be reading CNN or MSDNC. I mean, it's incredible to me how a regular wire service has turned so much to the left.
Well, I'll say, Lisa, you don't look over a day over 40. So I don't think you're.
Thank you, darling. You get a raise. Well, some of us here on the panel believe that the eulogy has been written for CNN, and all that's left is the official time of death. Others, Jeff, not so much. But anyway, thanks, panel. Well, it's all about trivia these days, and we hope that you'll want to play along. On this episode of Just for Fun, it's Trump trivia time. Sarah's going to read the questions, and we're all going to call out the answers. Who can count? Okay, anybody? Can anybody count here?
I'm not keeping track of this. You guys have to count or make sure you count on your fingers.
Graham, can you keep count?
Yeah, I guess I could do that.
All right, well, then you can keep score. Take it away, Sarah.
All righty. Question number 1. Just please call out if you know the answer. According to a Time magazine article, what did Trump read just for fun in college?
You are giving multiple choice, aren't you?
I am not.
Oh my goodness.
Archie's
Because
comics.
this is Trump. You guys should know this inside out. We covered the guy since the get-go. Everybody should know these answers.
Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill.
Kind of close. It's
Positive
nonfiction.
thinking by...
All right, I'm going to just tell you. Federal foreclosure listings. That was his go-to for read for fun. So
Sarah,
that's a draw. That's a draw. That's everybody gets that point. Everybody gets that point.
Okay.
Oh, come on, you got to have some tough questions. We can't just give
Multiple
it away.
choice. She doesn't listen. Never listen.
I do not like multiple choice. Okay. Number 2, what degree did Trump earn from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School?
MBA. He got an MBA.
Yeah.
In what subject, Andrew?
Business administration.
Econ.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. Economics. Wow. Okay. I knew these answers. You guys should know these answers. You guys are all smarter than me. All right. What beauty pageant did he own from 1996
Universe.
to
Miss
2015? What?
Miss Universe.
I had it.
Nah, it's Miss USA.
I was going to say Miss USA.
And I was halfway between. I said Miss World.
Miss World. We're all wrong. Miss USA. All right.
Nobody's winning this show, I guess. Who originally owned the Mar-a-Lago estate?
Meriwether Post. Meriwether. Wait.
You want
Meriwether Post. Margaret Meriwether Post. What's her first name?
Okay, you get that because it's Marjorie Post.
Marjorie. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. We have an actual answer to a question. Okay, here's the last one. What reason does Trump give for not drinking alcohol?
Oh, his brother, wasn't it?
His brother his brother was addicted.
Everybody got that one. Brother Freddie's death from alcoholism.
Right.
I got it first, though. Come on.
All right, so Andrew wins that one.
Yeah, but I got it better.
I'm not giving it to you. You're a cheater. No way.
Cheater.
For not drinking alcohol.
Oh, his brother wasn't it?
All right. Is that it, Sarah?
That's it. And it was pretty sad that you guys couldn't even rise to the occasion. I looked at these questions and I'm like, okay, I know the answers. So if I know
that
the
first
answers,
one
then
was-
everybody else should know the answers.
That first one is bizarro. I mean,
But it was a Time magazine article.
I think that may indicate that because of the serious political observers and analysts that we have always been more interested in informing ourselves about Trump's policies rather than his personal life.
there you go.
I think the most important.
Oh,
thing
you
to know
go
about
ahead
Trump,
and
though-
excuse.
But
all
the most
you want.
important thing to know about Trump is that he takes his steak well done with ketchup, which is an abomination, and I can see why people called him Hitler for that reason
It's
alone.
Diet Coke.
I agree.
No,
I
we're
agree.
not.
Well done with ketchup. That's horrible.
Ketchup. Ugh.
Oh, well, I don't know if we had fun in this segment or not, but we sure hope you guys did. Thanks for participating, panel, and thanks for watching, guys. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, surf on over to libertynation.com. Special thanks to our fantastic editor and post coordinator, Frank Diorio, and our executive producer, Sarah Calgill. I'm Lisa K. Donner, editor-in-chief. Thanks for joining us today. This has been a production of libertynation.com, where truth matters.